Well, good morning and welcome to Bedhead Chat with Chad. It is another morning. I don't know about you, but it doesn't feel like a Friday to me. Usually Fridays are like, yay, it's the end of the week. No more work, no more school. But it's the last Bedhead Chat with Chad for the end of the week, so that doesn't feel like work to me though. But I'll tell you what, I sure didn't when I get out of bed this morning. I woke up at 4 a.m. like I normally do. The only work I'm doing right now, besides, well, I'm doing a lot of work actually. I'm doing a ton of work, but it's there's no schedule. Is kind of I'm working the stock market, and here in Alaska, to do that, you got to wake up at midnight because that's when the pre-market opens. And I get up at 4 a.m. and I start working because that's 8 a.m. And then it's weird because I get done at 12:30. That's when the market closes in Alaska at 12:30, and then the final market closes at 6. So I'm like ready to go to bed at 6 p.m. And then I'm just like waiting around till about 10 o'clock at night to go to bed, to get back up at midnight, to go back to bed, to get back up at 4 o'clock. It's just insane. But you know what? The market's closing today. It's Good Friday. Welcome to the Good Friday edition. Today's title is called It's a Good Friday. So I decided last week that for Bedhead Chat with Chad, on Fridays, I get to choose the stories. So what? Yeah, 4 a.m. for what? To make money, Jesse, to make money. So you got to make money somehow during the stocks. Hey, here's a stock tip for the day. You ready? Everybody listen. Here's a stock tip for the day. If you don't have a pork stock, okay, if you mix 50% chicken and 50% base stock together, it's a great substitute for a pork stock. Okay, take that one to the bank. Trust me, it works really well. But yeah, so today, because it is Friday and it's Good Friday at the same time, I already set in place last week that Fridays I get to choose the stories because a lot of people are baiting me with words, wanting to hear specific stories. And I've got so many stories with so many people. But today is Good Friday, so I'm going to tell good stories. Now, not all of them are necessarily with happy endings, but they all have a good a good story or a good meaning behind them. Now, before I get started, I just got to tell you, it snowed again. You guys in Michigan, I see you on Facebook. Oh, it snowed. It was 80 degrees yesterday, but it snowed today. But let me show you something, okay? I'm just going to turn my window. I'm going to show you something, okay? See, I'm going to open my window. This is how I know it snowed, how much it snowed. That right here is my freezer, and my ice is covered. That's how much I know it snowed. I can't even find my ice. So somewhere underneath there is my bag of ice. Yeah, we got snow. I don't want to hear about your little, oh, it snowed. But, all right, so Good Friday. It's a Good Friday story. You can still throw in, and you can remind me of specific stories if you want to, about people, good stories, stories from my time working with you guys. Most of you know I was a youth pastor a big majority of my life, a pastor for a big portion of that too. But these are just stories of, like for instance, I'll tell you a story. Let me think of a really good one. I did not come pre-planned. Still, I didn't want to just have a big list. This is extemporaneous. So there's this guy here. I'll tell you a happy, sad one. This is guy. His name is Adrian. And when I lived in Dowagiac, that was the very beginning of my ministry. And we worked with a lot of different types of people. Now, when we first started our ministry, we got a lot of flack for the types of people we worked with. Ooh. And I got called a lot of things. A lot of people judged Dana and I for what we're doing. We got kicked out of churches, actually. It was crazy because of the types of people that we brought into the church. And we had a gang problem in Dowagiac. It wasn't major, but it was big. It was big enough. And for Dowagiac, this is back in the 90s. Wow, we're going way back. Maybe it was the 90s for sure. And this guy named Adrian, he was from a gang family. Now, this is a legitimate gang. Wasn't the pretend gang, but this is pretty big. And he was moved to Dowagiac to live with his aunt or his uncle or somebody. They moved him to Dowagiac, and he was still involved in the gangs. And he found me somehow through youth, through the street ministries that we were doing. And over time, he found Jesus. And Adrian would come to my house. This is when we lived in a house in the neighborhoods, and I had a nice front porch. And every day, he would come and sit with me on my front porch, and we would just talk about stuff. And he'd be really real with me. And a lot of times, because of who he was, he'd always have people with him, and he was a little higher up in the hierarchy there. And he would sit on the front porch, and his two always had two people with him, and they would stand on. He'd sit on the porch, they'd stand on the sidewalk, and they'd hear some of the things he told me. And I knew a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have known from some of the people I was affiliated with. And he would just talk to me, and we'd be real. And he was growing in his faith. And this guy was really, it was just an amazing, amazing how he was growing in his faith. I remember the moment that he surrendered his life to Jesus. It was at we used to call it the Y2KJ Jam. This is before the big Y2K moment of 1999 or whenever that was. Yeah, the year 2000. And I remember the moment that he came forward and just surrendered his life to Jesus. But so this is about a year that he's doing this with me. And then one day he comes to me and he's like really nervous because he's going to be forced to move back with his family. And he's worried about his faith. He's worried that when he goes back, he's going to get sucked back into this gang life. Well, unfortunately, about 6 or 8 months later, he did get sucked back in. Now, this story doesn't end well, but it does end well for a reason. So the next time I saw Adrian, unfortunately, was at his funeral. Because Adrian ended up getting back into the gang life, and he did a carjacking, and it was in Michigan. And he ended up doing an all-night car chase through 3 states. And he drove through Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, back to Michigan. And he ended up in South Haven, Michigan, ended up in the woods, and he ended up getting killed after a all-night car chase. And here's a guy who spent a year on my porch learning more and more about Jesus. Now, why am I telling this story on Good Friday, a good story? Because here's the thing. Not all stories have supposed good endings, but it is a good ending. Because here's the thing, no matter what life threw back at Adrian, the one thing Adrian had deep down inside was Jesus. We don't always get to control our circumstances. We don't always get to control our family. We don't always get to control what life throws at us and where we're thrown into. Adrian got thrown back into this world with no one to support him. But that doesn't change what he had inside of him. Even though Adrian got thrown back into the lifestyle, I have full belief in my heart that didn't change who Adrian was inside. So yeah, Adrian, is it a good story? No. Is it a Good Friday story? Yeah. Because what happens if Adrian never would have met Jesus before that happened? Yeah, think about that one. But yeah, there's other great stories. Like I've told stories about Daves, all the Daves. I mean, every single one of those Daves. Yeah, Jesse, you know Adrian I'm talking about probably. Yeah, he's there. He's with Jesus right now. He taught how to skate and dance. Yeah, he was awesome. Rita remembers him. Adrian was an awesome guy caught up in life circumstances. So you know what? Let me just go there for a second. Here's the thing. I'm gonna be preaching Sunday, and my sermon is gonna be the fear that God's not real, because sometimes in our life it just feels like the situations we're in that there's no way God could exist. But let me tell you, it doesn't matter the circumstances we're in. God's there. But I won't preach right now. I'm not here to preach. This is not a bait and switch. I'm here to tell stories. But the Adrian story is a pretty powerful one to me. But I remember once I was invited. I was at the Eclipse, and I'm an evangelist. If you don't know what that means, it's just I love telling people stories and telling the story of Jesus and leading people to the kingdom of God. But I was invited to a church in St. Joe, Michigan, and to share to a youth group. Now, this youth group was a very prim and proper, very straightforward, and all perfect young ladies and gentlemen. And I brought a couple of my Eclipse kids with me, which are not prim and proper and not straightforward and not perfect little young men and women, but good followers of Jesus. And it was funny because we went in there and I started preaching, and I'm not one of those let's get the music going and get the emotions going and all that. I'm the one pretty straightforward. I just kind of tell it like it is. And all I did is do what I'm doing right now. I told stories. I told stories of people. And at the end, I just felt compelled. I said, I'm pretty sure, and this is kind of what I said, and I've been razzed by my guys ever since. I said, I'm pretty sure and I know just the way I said this, and I never live it down. So I'm pretty sure in this group, you got your potheads, you got your sluts, you got your, and I was going, I can't, and I said the word sluts. I said it, I did, and I didn't know what I was thinking, but I was trying to get across that you're not perfect. You're pretending to be perfect, and you're not. And I said, and you know what? I'm going to give you a chance right now to forget all this thing this fake front that you're putting on, and to surrender your life. I said, and we're not, in the worship team started to converse. I said, no, forget that. I said, no, this isn't about that. This is like, right now, if you're ready to just get this fake facade and ready to give your life to Jesus, forget all that. Forget this front. Forget all this fake. Now's your chance. Well, everyone's got their eyes closed except in the very back of the room, all of the leaders of this group, and I won't even say the church, but all the leaders of the group are in the back of the room with their eyes wide open like, I can't believe he's doing this. The guy doesn't look like this. Like, no way. There's none of our kids. There's no way any of our kids can respond to this. And I kid you not, it was dead silent. And one of the girls raised her hand, and the eyes in the back of the room were like disgust and awe and anger, because it was like that perfect girl, the one that's in school, that's like the best Christian in school, raised her hand and she accepted Christ for the first time. Now, I'm not saying that to make fun of anything. I'm saying that because that story was an important thing, because she was put up a front. And I just called it like it was. I said, look, here's the thing. And I told stories like, I told the Adrian story. I told different stories of people's lives. And this girl, who has been like the perfect youth group model kid, put on this perfect front in front of all of her friends and all of her peers and all of her youth leaders, I'm sure, who just kissed her tail. And she was, the model, right there and then in front of everybody, said, you know what, I've been faking it this whole time, and I'm ready to give in. It was crazy. But, I've been to churches where I've done, what they use the word altar call. I hate the word altar call. I'm not an altar call person. Here it is. Do you want it? Do you not want it? And I've been to churches where like elders and baptized members did first time, because people play a game. Okay, here's the good news. Screw the game. It's not about what do people think. The stories I have to tell are people that are real, people that come out of rough lives. I could tell you, story after story after story of people that had it tough, that had it rough, and then they came and they found Jesus, and their life did not get better. They didn't go home and all of a sudden everything's great, but they went home back to their real life, and they had it different on the inside, and they had a support, and they had a family. They had people like you. I'm looking at some of the names on here. They had people like you that are in their lives, like Danette, like Taylor, like Amy, like I'm just looking at like Kelly. That we're still a family, even separated from miles and miles apart. I'm 3,000 miles away from almost everyone in this list, except for Bethany, who just joined. I'm only like 3 miles from her. But that 3,000 miles away, yet we're still a family. And the one thing that connects us is that kingdom of God. But, I'll tell you another story. Let me think of a good one. Okay, so I've been talking about a live festival and Cornerstone Festival and some of these festivals. I remember this young lady, and I'm not going to use her name at all, who, when I first met her, because I really have made mistakes in my life trying to do what I thought was right. I've made some mistakes. I've said some pretty dumb things, but God's used them anyway. I was young, I was dumb. All I wanted to do was what I thought was right. But I met this girl, and when we first started doing ministry, we just started bringing in people from the street. People just, we were doing this thing. We started to bring two youth groups together, and it was Danette, the Perk and Beans Danette. She had a youth group, I had a youth group. We said, hey, let's bring the two together and do fun stuff together. Well, we brought the two together, and we had our core kids stick, but we just started, people from the street started showing up instead of our youth group kids. So we just went with it. Well, we'd have these kids from the street come in, and then they just want to talk, and we would talk. And I had one girl talk to me about being abused sexually when she was a kid, and this was all. This was, I mean, it wasn't a secret, but she just needed to talk about it. And I looked at her, and I fumbled around, and all the Holy Spirit was saying to me, and I didn't say it well, but knowing her as an adult and knowing her now, and this was it. She heard it correctly. I didn't say it well, but I said, God's going to use this in your future to change people's lives. Not what she was looking for then, but it stuck with her. And it's interesting because she, it wasn't a good scenario. And I even made the mistake once. We went on a hike in the woods, and what I didn't know is we ended up going in the woods where we went in the back way to a woods in the area where it actually happened. I had no idea. I mean, I really screwed up. But here's the thing. This is Good Friday. This is Good Friday. This is when Jesus died. And tomorrow is Black Saturday, when the world thought it was over, including Jesus' disciples. I mean, Jesus' disciples, read the Bible, they thought he was dead, gone, and not coming back. They thought it was over. So, I thought I totally screwed this thing up. But now this girl is a co-pastor. She's a pastor's wife. And I hate the word pastor's wife because there's no such thing as a pastor's wife. Well, there's a few people that are just the wives of pastors. But she is a co-pastor. She has a ministry working with people that are sexually abused. God is using her past to change the lives of people today. And the cool thing was, when I met her, she was not a follower of Jesus. But at a live festival, June 21st, her and a guy named Cleve was one of the guys that lived with us at the Eclipse, both on June 21st, 1999, I'm going to guess. They could tell me. They'll tell me I was wrong later. But both together, sitting around a campfire or something, they both joined the kingdom of God that day. Well, Carrie, I'm trying to think. So this person joined the kingdom of God, and then her family, over time, her whole family found Jesus. So God can use a bad thing, and God can turn it to use a good thing. As a matter of fact, I'm wearing my Team Kylie shirt today. And most of you on here, I'm looking at some faces and some names on here, and some of you know me, some of you are new, some of you are some of my Iditarod crowd. Hey, here's to the Iditarod 2020. If you stalk me on Facebook, you see Grieving Dad is one of the things on my list. I'm the bereaved dad. I lost Kylie 3 years ago. And, losing Kylie and Jaylen December 4th, 2016, it was tough. And I got to be honest, I was angry. I spent more time being disappointed than angry, but I was angry at God. And I don't think at any point in time did I question his existence or question if he was there. But let me tell you, I'll even go to the word I was pissed. I mean, I'll be blunt. God and I had some conversations that I used some pretty bad language with him. I mean, we talked, and let me just say something to you. That's okay. That's okay. I mean, we had some chats. About a month and a half after Kylie passed, we went at it. If there's some fists that could be thrown, there've been some fists thrown. But here's the thing: at the funeral. And I don't remember saying this until I watched it 6 months later because they recorded the funeral. I said, if I have to live through this, life's better change because of it. And here's the thing about Good Friday. Kylie died. Jaylen died. Now, I know deep in my heart that they're with Jesus. I know that. And I know that the resurrection is coming. Easter is about the resurrection. Unfortunately for us, we have to wait. His disciples only had to wait 3 stinking days for Jesus to come back. I got to wait a long time. It's a blink of an eye in reality, in eternity. But for me, it's just like forever. Every day I wake up and it's not there yet. I'm still without my daughter, and it sucks. I got to be honest, it sucks. But I know it's coming. But you know what? Black Saturday was that time in between when they wondered if Jesus, they thought he was dead. And that was that misery point. And I lived through that. And I still spend days in that misery point, just questioning and wondering. But God is using my scenario to change people's lives. God's using the loss of my daughter to change people's lives. Now, am I happy that I lost Kylie? Let me be blunt. Hell no. I'll go that far. I mean, that's as far as I'm going to go recorded. It's never going to disappear. It's in the internet forever now. But lives are changing. I mean, hundreds, if not thousands of people's lives have changed from the story. I've been traveling the country. I've preached at many churches. I've done workshops talking about it. I mean, I've got a lot more coming down the pipe talking about that. I'll be doing actually, you can check me out, check my page. I'll be posting it today. I'll be doing a special Celebrate Recovery tomorrow night on Black Saturday, talking about what it's like to live in that middle between death and resurrection and how the disciples felt about that. But you know what? It's okay. It's okay to be in that middle. I mean, my life in that middle, God's using it. So, not all stories have happy endings or aren't at the actually. Let me say it better than this. Not all stories are at the end yet, because some stories don't end until we're with Him. So, do I expect my life to be full of joy? Sure, but it's also going to be full of pain. I don't expect my pain to go away. I wake up every morning missing my daughter. I mean, I'm fighting off right now, tearing up, and that's okay if I cry. Oh well, I don't care. But that's just life. But I also know this: God's using it. God can redeem any situation, good or bad. So let me tell you a good story. So let's go back to Dave, another Dave. So I used to teach kids how to share their faith, and we used to have this Bible study at Perkin Bean. See, everything falls back to coffee. At Perkin Beans, we do this. We would do these Bible studies or these gatherings. We just coffee. Let me tell you what, coffee is magic. It doesn't matter how old, how young you are. Well, how young does kind of matter. But I know people that are even on here right now that let their kids have coffee when they're little, and I'm okay with that. Kylie Brothers, awesome coffee. There's my advertisement for the day, Kylie Brothers. So we would have these Bible studies, and they'd always invite guests, and then they'd start to ask questions. Well, I remember this one time. You've got about 7, 8, 9 kids, teenagers. I say kids because I'm old. 9 teenagers and 1 non-believer, and they started hammering this guy. And I just let them, and I'm just sitting back, just kind of smiling without trying to smile. They started hammering him and trying to tell him about Jesus, and they convinced this guy. They just sell him logically why he should be a follower of Jesus. So he goes, okay, I'll be a Christian. And I looked at him, and this is the first time I ever did it. I'm like, why? Why do you want to be a Christian? And the guy couldn't answer the question. So I talked him out of it. I just completely talked him out of it. And after they spent all their time talking him into it. And then they convinced him back into it. And it was just this great thing, because when it was all said and done, and Dave was the cheerleader. Dave was the head. Dave was like the guy that was running the show on the convincing him into it. But by the time it was done, they got away from logic, and they started telling stories. They started sharing what God had done in their life instead of the logic of why. And the guy ended up becoming part of the kingdom. But it got, instead of why, it became stories. But it was me saying why. I talked him out of it. I said, what makes sense in this? What's the logic? Why would you want to do this? And here's the thing: I've always asked people, when people come to me and say, "Hey, I want to become a Christian," and I always ask the question, why? Because if I can convince them with one word why to not be, then guess what? they're not doing it for the right reason. But the word why should never change anyone's mind because you always have an answer for the word why. But yeah, I remember that talking somebody out of joining the kingdom of God, which actually ultimately sealed the deal of them really understanding why they wanted to join the kingdom. Oh man. So I used to have this Bible, and I still have the Bible, but this Bible I would have every time somebody joined the kingdom, I would have them sign it and date it, and it just I ended up like the back page, the back page, the front page, the front page, and then we started ended up, and all the pages are full, and it's no longer able to be. I just had to stop filling it out, but yeah, good stories, good stories. So let me tell you one last story. Let me tell you a story, and some of you have heard this before, but I just want to tell it anyway. Let me tell you a story about Kylie. Just a story, just something that we love to do together. A lot of people that know me know that I love Florida, and Kylie and I, when we lived in Florida, that was if you're older and have a teenage daughter or have had a teenage daughter, and if you've been a teenage daughter, you know there's that stage where they go from "Oh, I love you, Dad. You're great" to "Dad doesn't trust me anymore." To "Dad doesn't like me anymore." To "I hate Dad." No, I'm not that far, but we got to that stages of "Dad doesn't trust me," or anything I say, she thought I was angry with her when we lived in Florida. Well, here is the magic. Okay, get it? The magic in Florida, but it actually wasn't Disney. It was Universal Studios Orlando. So all I had to do was say, "Hey, Kylie, you want to go to Universal?" Because we had season passes, and not only did we have season passes, we had the good passes. Because Kylie and I were very similar in a lot of ways. Now, Bethany, if you're still on, Bethany is a good friend here in Nome, Alaska, and Bethany thinks I'm spoiled. Now, those of you that know me, you know I'm not spoiled. I just like nice things in certain categories, like Claudia Brothers coffee. But we had these premier passes, and Kylie and I were very similar in that way. We liked certain things certain ways. So we would go, and anytime I said that, it doesn't matter what was going on in life, she's like, "Let's go." And we would only go for 3 or 4 hours, but we would go, and we always had valet parking. So she loved all this stuff like I did. So we'd go when you get in, and we'd get cut the line, and so we'd get the valet parking, which put you right to the front of the park. So you didn't have to walk like 3 miles through crowds. You just get to go right to the front of City Walk. So Galactic Defenders forever. Yeah, I'm getting there. So then we would go in and we'd walk to the back of Universal because there's two parks if you've ever been there, and we would go to Men in Black. Now, Men in Black is a ride where you would, it's the Men in Black. You shoot aliens. Well, we had the special passes, so we got our little lanyards, and we had the lanyards, and so you get fast pass, and you get to cut through, and so it was fun because Kylie loved you. No, Bethany, stop! I'm not spoiled. So we would, because I always had to play along with Kylie because she loved doing it. We'd get the fast passes. There'd be these long lines because it's always summer in Orlando, unlike my freezer that's covered with snow out there. And so she'd hold the fast passes. She'd be like this. And we'd walk through the line, and as people were looking at it, she'd hold it up like this, like, "I've got a fast pass, you don't." And we get in there, and we get in Men in Black, and we ride, and we go around, and we see. Here's the thing: we knew the shortcut. If you got connected with people, which I was really good at getting connected with people, you would get on the ride, and you'd ride, and then you get off, and then you go to the child swap, and you cut through, and you just go as many times as you wanted to go along in this ride. So we would ride until we got dizzy, because there's a thing at the end, and our goal was always to get 999,999. That's the max out you can get, which we got close. We never got the max. But the thing was, we were Galactic Defenders. That's what, at the end, they give you a score. So Kylie and I were always Galactic Defenders. But then after we got done, then there was always a routine. We would go and we'd sit and we would watch people. Because I don't know what it is about vacation in Orlando. People don't bring their best. We would do, anybody ever watch the show What Not to Wear? Well, Kylie and I did the What Not to Wear to ourselves. And we would just sit there and we would go back and forth. If we had Facebook Live back then, we probably would have gone live and done What Not to Wear live from Universal Studios Orlando because it was just fun. We would go get a Cinnabon, we'd go get our valet to bring us a car, and we'd go home. That was a typical weekly event for Kylie and I in Orlando. which is why if you've ever seen her gravestone on the back, it says Galactic Defenders Forever 999999. Now, Good Friday, it's time to close up shop here. It's been 30 minutes. There's a lot of stories that we could tell. And you listen to me every day telling stories. Some are funny, some are crude. Today, I tried to tell stories that had really deep meanings to them, both spiritual meanings, both personal meanings to me. But listen, let me tell you what. If you're out there listening, I'm just going to get a little preachy for just give me a minute to be preachy. If you're out there and you are part of the kingdom, you know what? Share your story. This is the time where people want it. They'll listen. I mean, they're listening to me. They'll listen. And if you're not, hey, you know what? I've got a video. Just look, my thing is it's a message from Pastor Chad, an Easter message from Pastor Chad. Just listen to it. Just if you listen to me doing this every day, listen to that message real quick and just do that. I will be live tomorrow, 2:30 Alaska time, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time for Celebrate Recovery. I'm gonna get pretty raw tomorrow when it comes to Black Saturday. It's not for the faint of heart. I'm going to get pretty deep. If it's my family members, you may not want to listen because I'm going to talk pretty deep about the Kylie scenario and what life was really like as a grieving father when it comes to my spirituality. So I invite you there. And then Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Alaska time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But it's been Bedhead Chat with Chad. Remember, no shaving, no showers, no changing your clothes if you don't want to. But hey, one thing I should say, brush your teeth. For God's sakes, people, brush your teeth. All right, I'm out. We will see you next Monday at Bedhead Chat with Chad, where we'll come back with You're Still Late to the Party after we got cut off by the gnome internet conspiracy yesterday. Love you guys. Have a great Easter weekend. We're out.